All right. Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Dr. Narine Dat Show. For those of you who have been watching us and following us, will know that our new branding is very different than what we have had in the past. That is the Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Here in the Dr. Narine Dat Show, it is a safe space for positive energy only. And the difference is we are selecting guests to be part of the show, so we are not randomly picking anybody and everybody, so to speak. And tonight we have a very special guest, no different than what we have had in the past. He's no other than Sohan, all the way from Trinidad and Tobago. How are you doing tonight, Sohan?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm doing fine. It's a relaxing evening.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking time off your busy schedule to kind of join us. And so you know the drill. You've been on the show in the past, a few years ago, that is. What we are going to do, we're going to give you the opportunity to kind of take a minute or two, take your time, let people get to know you well. Take your time and introduce yourself to us. Let people know a little bit about you, a little bit about your background and so forth, your childhood and so forth. And then we're gonna dive into some specific pieces and then we'll take it from there. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So, to introduce myself, I think a lot of people already would have a synopsis of who I am. I am Sohan Badall, also known as the glam master in the makeup industry. But I also have a different side to me as a dance impersonator of a female impersonation that's known as Sexy Sheila. Um, I've been a professional makeup artist for the past 20 years, specializing in bridal makeup artistry, pageantry, as well as carnival makeup. Um, in addition to makeup, I have been the founder of the Sargam Dance Company, a female impersonator through drag entertainment in Trinidad on public platforms where I've performed for a number of years in very main stage events such as Chutney Soka Monarch, and other carnival events, house parties, weddings, and so on as well. A lot of people who follow me know that I'm a very vocal person and very actively involved in culture and standing for cultural traditional heritage. And what a lot of people may not know is that in addition to all of the public and social things that I do and the public space that I have, I also have a degree in event management, it's internationally certified, and over 13 years accounting experience. And I work in the accounting field on a permanent basis as well.
Oh, well, thank you so much for that introduction. I mean, I knew some stuff of you, but I wasn't aware of all the pieces that you've shared. So thank you so much for taking the time to kind of
Thank
do
you.
that. So, I mean, there are lots, obviously, based on your history of what you've been doing. There are a lot of things for us to talk about, but there are a couple of things that resonate with me as you were speaking. You mentioned something about advocating and whatnot for like that cultural piece. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that, if you don't mind?
Sure. So I use the word advocating because I've realized within recent times, and I'm not talking about 1 year or 2 year now, I'm talking about for a number of years now in recent times, I've realized decline in our cultural aspect of music and entertainment. And I would say there is a decline in our cultural aspect because yes, we live in a modern day society, and yes, times are changing. But I strongly believe that even though times are changing and we are becoming more modernized and we are infusing Western culture into Eastern culture and vice versa, I strongly believe that we should still be able to maintain our identity and our heritage and our culture. And I see that being lost in Trinidad. And I say that because, okay, so we will take the recent carnival season as a prime example. And Chutney Soka Monarch, you have our reading queen coming on next. So I'm going to take Chutney Soka Monarch as an example. Lately, if you look at Chutney Soka Monarch, the name suggests Chutney Soka music and it says Chutney Soka Monarch. But if you look at the content of Chutney Soka Monarch, let's take the most recent year. How much of Chutney Soka Monarch was actually cultural Chutney Soka or chutney music, or how much chutney music was actually showcased and infused and influenced in Chutney Soka Monarch? I'm pretty sure if anybody wants to be honest and really take a review of it, none, none. We everything is English, everything is more soca oriented, and the chutney aspect of it has been ignored and neglected.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that, and thank you for being so open in terms of advocating for something, so important. In fact, I've seen people, I mean, after this competition, or to be more specific, after this CSM competition, obviously, I've seen people, give their opinion based on some of the things that you've said and all of that.
Mhm.
Um, in your opinion and in terms of your experience and all of that, what would you say are some of the things that needs to be done to make sure that we are getting back on track in terms of actually, doing real chutney, so to speak, real chutney music
Okay.
rather than fading away from the real purpose of it?
Okay. So I think one of the avenues of, or one of the things we should consider to on the way to preserving our real chutney art form or chutney music is the fact that we need to put incentives in place, and we need to encourage producers, entertainers, songwriters, performers, and entertainers to actually produce chutney music. If the incentives are there for the chutney soca and the soca music more than the chutney music, obviously they are now going to produce along that line. So I think one of the things we can do to ensure that chutney music and our cultural chutney art form is preserved and maintained is to introduce some sort of platform and to introduce some sort of rules and regulations and competition to incorporate that chutney aspect. So therefore, encouraging entertainers and artists to not produce chutney music because it is required, one, but also there is a platform for it as well to be appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for that. Keep in mind, for those of you who are watching, we try to make sure that, we keep this space safe, right? We try to keep it safe. And it's basically, for that positive energy that we've been talking about. But obviously, when we see need to close the gap, right, we do it in a very constructive way. And that's exactly what our guest is doing here tonight, which is awesome. I really, really appreciate that. Have you ever been I mean, I know some pieces of you in terms of knowing you, obviously, but have you ever been, judged when it comes to any sort of competition, whether that be, in the singing industry or otherwise?
I have never judged a competition in the singing industry or the monarch industry, but I have been a judge numerous times at various pageants, both locally here in Trinidad, regionally in the Caribbean, as well as internationally. I've judged events throughout Trinidad. I have judged in Grenada, I've judged in Guatemala, Guyana. So I've been judging events such as pageantry because I'm
Mhm.
also a pageant director and a pageant coach. So I've judged a lot of pageants and talent segments for pageants, but not any singing competitions.
Okay. So thank you so much for that. So what would you say are some of the transferable skills that you can use in a pageant industry, for example, right? I'm talking about the transferable skills to enhance, let's say, something like the CSM competition, for example.
Okay, so I think to enhance the CSM competition,
Hmm.
I would say I'm not even going to talk about the transferable skills
Hmm.
first. I'm going to say one of the things that CSM can do to really enhance and to really bring back, culture and tradition is go back there to the foundation, go back to the foundation of Chutney Sukkah, go back to what Chutney Sukkah used to be and used to stand for. The transferable skills now in any competition, whether it's a pageant, whether it's a singing competition, a dance competition, or whatever the competition is, there is usually a panel created by different backgrounds, different educational backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, different talent backgrounds to create one panel so that you can have a very, or supposed to be very fair judging across the board. And I think um, being a pageant judge over the number of years and judging not just talent categories, but judging intellect and body posture and stage production of delegates and so on. I think those skills can also be transferred into a chutney soca or a soca monarch or any singing or dance competition panel because it basically is very similar. You are there to judge the performer's production, stage presence, and the relatable aspect to what the competition is as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that, so on. So, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who have just tuned in, you're watching and listening the Dr. Narine Dat Show. Obviously, we have folks listening on 102.7 CKMS FM Radio Waterloo. That's where we started. That's how our journey started in radio over 2 decades ago. Our guest tonight is Sohan, all the way from Trinidad and Tobago, very talented individual. And so here we just kind of talk about, snapshot of different things that he does, his knowledge, his advocacy, and all of that. For those of you who have watched our interview that we have had with him quite a few years ago, will know more of him. For those of you who follow him on social media and so forth, obviously we know of his work and things of that sort. In terms of this actual, the things that you're talking about, by the way, really resonate with me because it is clear that things are not always fair, and I do not want to receive any sort of. If I do, it's okay. I hope nobody send me email and kind of make it a little bit too heavy for unnecessary reason. Obviously, when it comes to judging and so forth, it has to be done fair. And this is you do. And keep in mind, Sohan, you are not obligated to kind of respond to all of the questions
Yes.
here tonight in any shape or form. But I'm only asking you. In terms of the judging, and I'm referring to specifically when it comes to the CSM. In
Hmm.
your opinion, this is just opinion, right? Because you also
Hmm.
kind of put your words
Yes.
out there on social media. Do you think that the judging was done fairly?
In
That's a tough one. It's a tough one, but go ahead.
it is a tough one, and I would say it's a tough one because during the lead up to CSM as well as right after CSM, I've came under very heavy fire from persons of the industry because I've been very vocal along the way. Um, and I think we should all be entitled to our opinion, and we should all be allowed to have an opinion as well. And therefore, my opinion still stays the same. I honestly think that this year, 2025, Chutney Suka Monarch um, was not as fair as it should have been. And now I would break that down. The Queen category, congratulations to Rishma Ramlal. I have known Rishma Ramlal for a very, very long time. I've worked with Rishma Ramlal in the past. I've been around Rishma Ramlal for a very long time. And I know the work and I know the dedication that she's put in over the years. And to be quite frankly, she is one of the artists that I believe have been unfairly treated for a number of years in Chutney Suka Monarch and have been overlooked for a number of years. I even go back to, I can't remember the exact year, but I think it would have been either 2016, 2017, Chutney Suka Monarch. I think it's 2016 when Rishma Ramlal was on stage. She had a very similar experience to what Vanessa Ramuta had on stage this year, which I was not at Chutney Suka Monarch this year because I was judging another competition that happened the same night. And when I look back at it and I realized that it happened again and it happened this time to Vanessa, I was very annoyed and very pissed off in local terms to know that this is still happening and that women are still being treated so unfairly on these stages. How can a microphone be muted during a competition and during a performance? And how could and even if this happened and this genuinely happened, why the producers of the show did not allow that particular contender to have a redo? In all fairness, that contender should have had a review because having your microphone mute during your performance set you back mentally and set back your mind frame and set back your performance and set back everything that you were set out on stage to do. And I know this from experience because it happened to us with Rishma Ramla in 2016. And it should not be happening again. So in light of that, I also think that Vanessa Ramuta had a very raw, unfair deal dealt her this year in Chutney Suka Monarch as well. When it comes to the Monarch itself, to be quite honest, after looking over the performances a number of times, I'm still confused as to why Rick Ramuta isn't in that top three, why Vikas Sahadi wasn't in that top three, because Chutney Suka Monarch should be a competition where we really judge people based on their vocals as well, because it's a singing competition. So I cannot, for the light of me, understand why contestants who went on stage and really sang and commanded their audience through vocals did not place. And contestants who went on stage and one did not sing the way that these other contestants would have sang, mostly hyped a crowd rather than actually performed, would have been scored higher. Is it that we are producing a concert or are we producing a competition? We need to decide if Chutney Suka is a concert or is it a competition?
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up a good point there. So in terms of the judges, and we're not here to bash anybody, by the way, for those of you who are watching and listening. We are just having an open conversation here, and a very important one, by the way. So in terms of the judges, how many judges do they normally have? Or
To be quite honest, we don't know, and that's another thing that I believe every competition should introduce and publicly announce their judges before or on the night of a competition. Every competition, pageants do it, Mastana Bahar do it, and I believe every competition should do that. You should know who your judges are.
yeah. So I can add to that if that's okay. So when it comes to, and I asked this for a reason because I'm not aware of any judges and whatnot.
Yes,
And now this explains it because no
yes,
judges were introduced. And so ideally, judges should be introduced, right? So that people know.
yes.
And another key point thing too is if the judge, right, let's say any one of them has any relationship with any of the performances, they're automatically disqualified from performing.
Mhm,
Meaning that, let's say if they are a producer of one of the
mhm,
songs, all right,
mhm.
for somebody who's performing, that's a total no-no, right? And so that I
Exactly.
can openly say that the fact that these things are not happening, there's an opportunity for lots of improvement when it comes to the CSM competition.
Yes,
That
yeah,
I'll
there is room for
openly see
improvement.
for sure, right?
Yeah.
So they cannot be doing stuff that way for sure. So the conflict of interest, all of that, it's a total no. It doesn't work that way for sure.
Hmm.
And so I'm glad that you're actually taking a stand for that. There's no question about that. We're going to get back to this a little bit more. I do not want to make it like the full focus. I also want to
Yeah.
talk about some of the amazing work you have been doing. You've been doing really great work, right, over the years.
Thank you.
And I know you have busy lives, and I know that you will have to head out, to different plan activities and so forth. But there's a couple of questions I want to ask you along the line of new projects and so forth. What are some of the projects that you are working on so that people can look forward to in 2025?
Okay, so there is a number of projects I'm working on, and I would be honest with you. There is one particular project that I'm working for that's targeted to start 2026. Um, my team and I'm now building the team around it, and we are now in the process of planning and developing. I don't want to say much about that project
Mhm, mhm,
because
mhm,
there's a number of reasons I wouldn't say much about it. One, um, the competition. Two, I don't want the backbiters and the negativity and the fight down to start before the project actually gets off the ground. So you can stay tuned for more info on that one. And I think that one is one that you would probably want to speak more about when I actually launch it. It is going to be major and it is going to be something. It is a project that I'm working on that is directly um channels towards the preservation of culture and our cultural art form. That much I can tell you. In addition to that, I have started working on a teenage event, the Miss Talented Teen Trinidad and Tobago competition, bringing forth the talent and the development of our teenage girls through the secondary school level. The winner of that would actually be going to represent Trinidad and Tobago at the Miss Smith Haynes Caribbean Talented Queen Show, which is held in St. Kitts annually. And I think this is a great way to start developing and harnessing the talent from our young upcoming ladies through secondary school who are interested in pageantry and interested in stage and performance and so on. So this is an opportunity for them. Um, I am also currently working on um, finding a way to use my Miss Tourism platform as a marketing venture and building tourism artifacts for Trinidad and Tobago as well.
Amazing. Yes, and I mean, we would love to have you back once things are up and running, so we can, you can talk more about it and give us some more specifics and so forth, which is
I
awesome.
could actually off air, I could actually give you some more details onto that project. It's just that I'm not putting that project in the public
Absolutely,
platform as yet
absolutely. No,
until it's
no, no.
fully ready to go.
You're doing all the right stuff, right? That's
Yeah.
awesome. No, no
Yeah.
need to share stuff that's not. where it's not needed, right?
Yeah.
To be out as of yet, so to speak. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So out of all the projects and all the things that you've been working on over the years, over 2 decades, that is, what would you say are some of your most proudest moment where you can look back and say, look, it was difficult work, but I've done well.
I would always say my proudest moment would be my first stage performance as a drag queen at Chutney Monarch. Because Chutney Monarch is believed to be one of the biggest public stages in the East Indian community and
Mhm.
in the East Indian entertainment arena. And I remembered there was, or there have been a drag performer before me, which have actually been my initial tutor, which is Molly Bridgewell. And Molly Bridgewell would have performed in these arenas before. However, because of our society and the culture of our society and the way our society operates, and we are not as advanced as other societies, breaking into an industry as a drag entertainer in Trinidad and Tobago is a very difficult one. You have to have a strong back. You have to be able to withstand the critiques, the bullying, the physical bullying, because I've been through physical bullying as well. Um, and I would say being able to stand on Chutney Monarch stage as a drag entertainer and perform for a number of years, performing for over 14 artists over a number of years as a drag queen would have been one of my proudest achievements.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sohan, for sharing that with us. You mentioned
Thank you.
something that really got my attention, though, because as you know, we all know we do have lots of bullying happening. Eh? We see
Yes.
it on social media. People feel that they can say whatever they want to say, they can do what they want to do because it's easy access and all that.
Mhm.
But the physical piece, I never even thought of it. Well, I knew it, but I guess
Yeah.
because of the social media, we have lots of things happening. Are you saying that it's still happening in terms of your own personal life, your own career, and all that? You're still facing
So,
some form of bullying, or are you referring to in the past?
so in the past, it would have been more significant.
Mm,
It is not as bad. The physical bullying have not occurred for a number of years, and that is because I have taken um, a lot of a lot of strategies and put a lot of strategies in place to prevent myself from being in the space or the arenas for physical abuse. And I've stopped, you know, being in a public environment as open as I used to be before without, a strong backing and things like that, because I would have been beaten 5 times during traveling to work and back from work and things like that before. So now I've limited the amount of traveling I do publicly, and you find I hire a lot of transportation privately now to take me to and from, which is more costly, but for my safety, it was the route I took. The verbal bullying and abuse is still there somewhat because people consistently would make the social media comments and would send you the messages on social media and things like that. And I mean, even recently, I would say even recently, right after Chutney Monarch, based on my vocal take on Chutney Monarch, I even encountered, verbal abuse through WhatsApp. I mean, I've even been threatened on WhatsApp um, because of Chutney Monarch as well. And I think that that is something we really need to deal with because I think we need to understand that everyone is entitled to an opinion and everyone should be allowed to express their opinions and express their views as well. Um, from a from a point of me being bullied for being different and being more of an effeminate man and into makeup and a drag queen and entertainment and all of that, I think that Trinidad and Tobago have become more accepting of me, and that did not happen overnight. I worked very hard for that to happen. I worked on, showcasing my talent and showcasing what I'm about and showcasing the positive aspects of what I do. And I think that would have helped a long way in me gaining the respect I've gained in Trinidad and Tobago at present.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm glad that you are a fighter, by the way. And I
Thank
mean
you.
this in a good way, right? Meaning that despite the fact that you've had some challenges in your life, just like
Mhm.
all of us, right? We go through different
Mhm.
challenges at different times, different stages in life, and so forth for a variety of different reason. You did not allow any of that to hold you back and from moving forward as well. So do know that that's a good thing because you could have just said, "Hey, look, I'm just going to give
Yeah.
this up," and
I, I
whatnot. But
actually
mhm.
I actually use that as fuel to do more. Um, to show Trinidad and Tobago and to show the world that I can do more. And I'm also very determined and very passionate to create a platform and a space for those coming up behind me. I don't think that they should have to face what I have faced. I am trying to pave a way for them and for their future, for they to feel comfortable. A young man coming up should feel comfortable to dance, feel comfortable to be a makeup artist, should feel comfortable to venture into an industry that is deemed a female industry without feeling prejudice or feeling pressured or becoming a target for bullying and so on.
All right. So what would you say were some of the, I know you may have answered some of the pieces, but I'm trying to get a little bit more specific here. What would you say are some of the some of the most challenging pieces to even do anything that's entertainment related? Because it's still, yes, there are lots of opportunities. Yes, there's still, a lot of, potential and so forth, but it is still there's a lot of competitions, when I say
Mhm.
competition, not like competition like a CSM, but competition in general,
Yes,
because
in
you're
general.
trying to brand your own stuff, you're trying
Mhm.
to, get yourself out there and, things are a little bit more accessible now, right? And
Mhm.
resources are more available and so forth now. What would you say are some of the most challenging pieces for you to still making sure that you are continue to brand yourself accordingly, continue to do the things that are of importance to you because things cost money, cost time, you need support,
Yes.
you need moral
Mhm.
support, all of these things.
Okay, so you may have noticed, and the general public may have noticed over recent years, I have not focused much on my entertainment aspect as a dancer, as a drag entertainer. And there's a reason for that, because uh, the fight to the fight and the push to really be respected and to really be given that opportunity as a female impersonator through dance in Trinidad and Tobago is a very big fight and a very hard fight. And I would say that because Trinidad and Tobago is a culture where um, it's all about what are the right words I'm looking for? It's all about
This is a safe
who
space,
you
so
know.
whatever comes
Yes,
comes comes in
yes,
comes.
it's all about who you know, what you can do for
Yeah.
whoever, and how whoever views you. You would find that, and again, I am from the dance aspect of it. Um, let's take Diwali Nagar for an instance. I have been a dance entertainer and have publicly performed for over 10 years as a dancer. First as a male dancer, and then moving into dance performance as a drag queen or female impersonator. For a number of years, year after year, I have submitted my proposal to Diwali Nagar to perform at Diwali Nagar because it was very important to me because to I wanted to conquer that stage for two reasons. One is Diwali Nagar, and I mean, who doesn't want to perform at Diwali Nagar? But two, I also wanted to showcase to the world that, or to Trinidad and Tobago, that drag is an art form. Regardless of what your conception of being a drag queen is or what your conception of drag is an art form, and drag is an art form that actually developed very largely through India. And I could not understand why in Trinidad and Tobago, um, it was so difficult to get onto the Wali Nagar stage. Year after year, they will consistently put the same entertainers over and over on the stage, but they will not give people like myself or others a chance to get onto that stage for their various prejudice reasons. And I reached a point where I took a stand and I just stopped. And when I say I just stopped supporting altogether because to me, it wasn't worth it anymore. However, in terms of my work as a makeup artist and a pageant coach and director, I'm focusing on that mainly now because I'm very passionate about makeup artistry. I love makeup. I mean, let's take Carnival, for instance. Recently for Carnival, I stood for 14 hours doing makeup and it didn't even affect me because I love it. And pageantry is a platform through which I can perform various aspects and various avenues in Trinidad and Tobago and create platforms for young women and young men in Trinidad and Tobago and help, create positive spaces for young men and young women in Trinidad and Tobago through pageantry. And that is why I've started focusing on my ability to push pageants a little more as well.
Thank you so much for that. So, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who have just tuned in, you're watching or listening to Dr. Narine Dat Show. For those of you who are listening to us on 102.7 CKMS FM Radio Waterloo, do know that we appreciate all of you as well. We cannot see you, but we do appreciate you. Our journey, as I mentioned earlier, started 2 decades ago, where we started on 102.7 CKMS FM. Obviously, we had a different name then, but we still that's okay, but we still try to maintain that relationship with 102.7 CKMS and we do appreciate the folks who are watching, obviously live here as well too. So I mean, there, what you've shared, it's challenging, but you still somehow you manage to kind of push through, you manage to just kind of keep going, which is the right thing to do, right? But it's difficult. What would you say are there are few things or one thing that really, keep you motivated to keep moving forward.
The one thing that keeps me moving forward is that I am literally determined to show Trinidad and Tobago and the world that being or being someone that doesn't fit the box that society have created for a man, being someone of an LGBT background or being someone of a effeminate background doesn't limit me or doesn't define me as a person. I'm determined to show Trinidad and Tobago and the world that there are a lot more to me than a label. I am capable of a lot more. I have a range of talent. I have a range of abilities. And that is what keeps me going because I'm determined to always prove Trinidad and Tobago wrong and to show Trinidad and Tobago that I am not defined by the label you put on me, and there is so much more to me.
All right. Thank you so much for that. So let's say you were to have the opportunity to start your life all over again from scratch, knowing what you know now. Obviously, we are all, we are more educated than we were 10 years ago. We are all more
Yes, yeah.
educated than we were 20 years, all of that. So knowing what you know now, let's say you have an opportunity to start all over again. Will you live your life differently? Will you do anything differently? Will you choose a different career? Would you approach things differently? Or will you just live your life exactly how you have lived it and continue to live it as of today?
So if I had an opportunity to live life all over again, the only thing I would do differently is I would become who I am at an earlier age in terms of confident, and I would start being me at an earlier age. I think I started really accepting me and being me a bit too late in life. I could have accomplished a lot more had I had that confidence early in life. So I would definitely try to come out of that shy box at an earlier age if I could live life all over again. And there are a couple wrong judgments I would have made along the way in terms of people and people I would have worked with along the way that would have created a lot of downfall for me in terms of business as well. I would have probably tried to avoid that. Other than that, I will still continue to be the person I am today. I will still choose to be a makeup artist. I will still choose to be a drag entertainer because I strongly believe I am who I am because of God's will, and I am very proud of who I am.
All right. So here in the show, as you know, we try to keep the space, as positive as possible and whatnot. Are there folks out there that you would like you don't have to, I'm just giving you that opportunity now while we are at it. Are there people out there who you would like to kind of thank, who kind of gave you the opportunity to maybe work on a specific project or kind of assisted you along the way, and you have not had the opportunity to kind of really say, hey, you know what, love, when I really think about it, you were there for me, or you've kind of assisted me along, you've given me that opportunity, even though it took several tries. And if nothing comes to
Yes,
mind right now, if you've already done it separately, that's okay too.
uh, there are people who have definitely been, there for me and have been motivators and have helped push me to become who I am. Um, so my family have been very instrumental in supporting. That support may have come at a late age, but it came. And they have been very instrumental and supporting in everything I do and my development and my projects and so on. So, you know, kudos to that. And I am appreciative of that. And I hope that every boy and girl coming up behind me, are blessed with that. But in the industry, there there are a couple people in the industry that really gave me that chance, and the chance they've given me had boosted my confidence and had propelled me. And those people are people like Richard Young, who is known for his work as a creative producer and in the fashion industry and the creative industry. And Richard is one of the first persons who would have given me that opportunity to showcase my work internationally and to be part of an international event, and it really helped, nurtured me and developed me. And I'm very thankful for that. And I always hold Richard in very high esteem. Another person who, have contributed to me gaining the confidence that I have now and continuing to be who I am and to push forward is Michael Salakram, the Shushaki dancers. Michael has been a role model and inspiration throughout the later part of my life and my career, and that I'm thankful for and I'm always appreciative of as well.
All right. Thank you so much. So as you know, and you've shared some of your own experiences earlier, we all go through challenges in life, right? But despite all of that, we can look back and and be grateful for a lot of things. What would you say are some of the things you were grateful for in your life, despite the fact that you've had lots of challenges in your life, based on what you've shared?
I am definitely grateful for life, first of all. I am grateful for the support chain I have within my family, and I'm grateful for the positive support and positive push I've gotten from people in the industry, significant people, those that I would have mentioned in this interview before. But most of all, I'm grateful for the blessings that I've had over the years in terms of my strength. Um, Believe me, it really takes a strong mind to continue going after, some of the significant challenges I've faced in my earlier years and the challenges through school and the bullying through school and so on. Not everyone would have survived that mentally or even survived it in general. And I am very grateful that I've been blessed with the strength to keep going and to use that as stepping stone to become who I am.
How about I'm a forward thinking kind of individual. So where do you see yourself 5 years from now? So 5 years from now, if we were to have an interview again, what are some of the things you will be sharing in terms of your accomplishment?
5 years from now, I
Yeah.
am hoping to have launched my book. Um, because I am, every year I sit down and I jot down and I put together and I work on, and I intend to launch a book based on my life and the challenges you face when you don't fit the norms of society. So 5 years from now, I'm hoping to have that book in the public market. 5 years from now, I'm hoping to have successfully launched and have my own cultural platform in terms of entertainment and productions for Carnival, which is one of the projects I'm working on that I would tell you more about, as I have mentioned. And 5 years from now, I also would like to have my established chain of saloons in Trinidad and Tobago and my own brand of makeup.
Thank you. I do not want to take away the spotlight from you here, but I want to add that I have a book coming out this year, entitled Rising Above. So I hope that I just want
I
to
look
add
forward
that.
to actually reading that book.
And I know I'm being biased because this is a book I put together, but I'm telling you, I nicely put together that book. It's life changing. I tell you that for sure. But anyways, let me put back the spotlight on you here. Honestly,
Yeah,
I'm very much amazed of the fact that you're not just stepping back and just kind of laying back and just let things happen. You're doing whatever you can based on the resources you have at hand, right, to
mhm.
make things work for you, which is amazing, which is awesome. Because,
Thank you.
a lot of times, people think, that there's overnight success or things will just happen just like that, as you would
But
know when it comes to the newer RTs and so forth. The thing that you do something and you rely on people to like and share it and magic will
mhm.
happen. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to put in the work because one thing I
You
can
do.
assure folks, whatever we put out, whatever effort we put into something, that's the result we're going to have. That I'll tell you for
Mhm.
sure. I know you've mentioned about who you know and so forth, and I'll get into that before you leave here today. But generally speaking, if we do things ethically, whatever effort we put in, that's the result we're going to have. There's no question about that. I
Yeah.
want to touch back about on something that's so relevant. Not only in Trinidad, but I want you to know that it happens in Guyana, it happens here in Canada. This is a Canadian initiative for those of you who don't
Mhm.
know. You have in the States, it happens everywhere. And here in Canada, and I do have a problem with it, by the way, because they have courses. In fact, in the past, in my younger days, I used to facilitate workshop and so forth when it comes to the importance of networking and building a relationship with people and all of these types of things. But as I get more mature and more, and more and whatnot, and I realize, oh my goodness, like, that can be a problem,
Yeah.
because what does that mean? Does it mean that, look, I know this individual that I'm going to treat, them a little bit differently, or I'm going to kind of give them the gig or give them the job and so forth. And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons for my doctorate, my doctorate social work thesis. The thesis was based on best practices for inclusive hiring. Because for me, when you're hiring somebody, you have to follow best practice. And I,
Yes.
I knew that, that there's a problem worldwide when it comes to that we're
Mhm.
not being inclusive, and so I and I hammer it out through through my studies and so forth. But anyways, that's I just want to mention that. But you brought up something. So are you saying that you have experienced that as well too when it comes to, you wanting to share your talent and whatnot, or being part of
Yes.
something, but you feel as if like you were held back because you didn't really have the connection. I know you already answered me here. So, but let's
Yeah.
break it down
No,
because this is
I
important,
feel like
Hmm.
I feel like it's not just the connection because
Yeah, yeah.
to be quite honest, I don't even think it's the connection on my
Mm,
end
mm,
because for those who know me, I'm well connected. I
mm,
know a lot of people knows me by now.
mm,
And again, that didn't happen overnight. That happened over the years of me
mm, mm.
doing things. I've done things with a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of people. I've assisted a lot of people. But I think in my aspect, I think, and you use an important word, inclusivity.
Mm.
Inclusivity is what keeps me back sometimes because there are stages and spaces that does not accept you or allow you to perform or to showcase or to be a part of just because you're a drag queen or you are LGBT or you are a feminine man, things like that. So I think inclusivity is a problem there.
Yeah. So there, meaning you're referring to Trinidad in specific, or just generally speaking, or your experience?
Generally speaking, but more so Trinidad because I get a lot more opportunities outside of Trinidad than I get in Trinidad sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another problem itself, because sometimes we don't really give our people, that opportunity.
Yes.
And we see these things happening all the time. For
Mhm.
example, Guyana, they might bring somebody from Trinidad to, to be,
Yes.
to lead. I don't know, concert or something,
Mhm.
and so forth. I don't think Trinidad is doing that much though. I'm gonna leave that as that. We're just having a safe conversation here, but I have
Yes.
not seen Trinidadian, for example, will bring like an artist from Ghana and like have them as the main
No,
main artist. That's
we
not
don't.
happening.
We don't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, you do from time to time, or you don't?
No, that
Oh,
hardly
very
ever
rarely,
happens
yes,
in Trinidad.
never
Yeah.
happened. But in Ghana, very different because what happened, even the president in Ghana, they're just trying to promote,
Yeah.
being inclusive. In fact, when they had, I can't remember the name off my head here, but I believe it's called Emerging Voices. Yeah, Emerging
Mhm.
Voices.
Yes.
As you would know, they had that
A
competition in
Trinidadian won
Ghana a
that.
few times, and they brought Savita, I believe,
Yes.
from Trinidad because they want to be a little bit more inclusive. They want to challenge and push,
Hmm.
those singers a little bit more and they didn't want them to see it as a competition. But I don't think
Yes.
Trinidad would have done that. But you guys, you will have to forgive me here. We're just having a conversation here. That's
Yes.
all.
Yes.
So stuff like that we should not be afraid of though. We should not be
Hmm.
afraid of those kinds of we should and that's one of the reasons. One of my favorite quotations is from a city of Guelph, not too far from where I live. Their quotation for their city is, "We are one world living together." I really like that because at the
Yes.
end of the day, we may be different, but this is one world. We're
We are
all
one.
living
Yeah.
together here, which is awesome for sure. Yeah. All right. And so we do not need to know like all your specifics and so forth. But my question to you is, how is it that you balance, life for you because you do a variety of different things. So how do you do it? Because it's a lot of stuff you do.
Um, to be quite honest, I don't even know if I've found the right balances yet, because sometimes I find myself overwhelmed, but I thoroughly enjoy everything I do. And what I try to do is I try to schedule myself in such a way that there isn't conflict as well. Because as I mentioned, I now hold a full-time job in finance department in the ministry, and I that's a Monday to Friday job. So you'll find that I'm now scheduling less makeup or less pageant work or anything of that sort during the hours of 8 to 4. And I'll schedule those things after the hours of 4 o'clock. So for me, it's about finding the right balance in terms of scheduling and time of day for different things. Um, and for me, it was also important to get to have a full-time job that is only Monday to Friday, because weekends is when my my job as a makeup artist is most hectic, with weddings and events and so on. So I just try to fit things in a way that they don't clash with each other. But I would never say that I've had the balance under control, because at times I get overwhelmed. I mean, just a week ago, I was overwhelmed to the point where I feel like I just need a week vacation.
Yeah. And speaking of the vacation piece, make sure you are incorporating time for you. That whole self-care piece is important. I mean,
I started trying to
I'm
do that.
yeah, I'm trying my best as well too. We all are. Because in my earlier years growing up, I always do things for people and I always put people first and so forth. Because as you would know, I'm very community oriented and so forth. But most recently, I've kind of switched that a little bit. I always put myself first now, and the reason for that is because I realized and I learned that I cannot feed off an empty bucket. I have to take care of the rind first, and that's what I do. So I'm trying to get you to do that as well, to where you put yourself first, and then everything
So
else becomes so easy or easier,
I,
I
I
should
am
say.
I am in that space of mind now where I am doing that to a level. And to be quite honest, that level of thinking would have been also brought about by experiences I've had in the entertainment industry. I've realized it even most recently in this carnival season, this Chutney season, where entertainers and people in the industry only knows you when they really need you, or they need something from you. But the instant that they are financially capable of paying someone else to do that, or getting that service from someone else, they forget you. Or the instant you need them to do something for you, they don't even remember that they had to do this for you. And it's experiences like that that have now pushed me into focusing on me and developing me, and not giving so much of my time to everybody else.
Mhm. So I have to be mindful that you have busy schedule and whatnot. I want you to know that I appreciate you coming on this show here. I want you to know that.
Thank
We'll
you very
have you.
much for having me.
My pleasure. We'll have you back again when you have things up and running in terms of specific project, or if you want to stop by anytime, for any particular thing and whatnot. Yeah, we are giving you an open invitation, so you don't have to worry about that aspect.
Definitely. I would tell you by the month of May, that new project for
Mm.
2026 will be ready to launch.
That's awesome. That's a good thing. So for those of you who have been following Sohan, you want to keep an eye out for that. For those of
Yes,
you who have not, it's a good
it's going
opportunity
to
to
be
kind
big.
of follow.
It's going to be difficult, but it's
Mhm.
going to be big.
Yeah. 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 Good things doesn't come easy, right? You have to put some sort of
Yeah.
effort. So I'm now giving you opportunity to say any last minute thing you would like to say before we wrap it up. But do note, I appreciate you to make the effort to be here. That's for sure.
Sure. Okay. In leaving, what I would like to say to my viewers is always remember that you are not defined by people's thoughts as people's thoughts, people's opinions, and people labels of who you are. You are defined by who you yourself project yourself to be, and always project yourself to be the best that you can, and always work on being who you want to be authentically, and not allow others to pursue you to be someone different.
Very good advice there, Sohan.
I've learned to be me. I'm not ashamed of who I am.
Awesome. Very powerful words there. And to the viewers, to the listeners, and to the radio folks and so forth, this is it for our show today. Reshma Ramlal will not be in the show today as previously advertised, so you will have to follow us and kind of look for a rescheduling for that. So keep an eye out for that. However, um, we have a special guest a week from today, and you don't want to miss that. I know it. We will try to be as positive as possible, um, because that's what this show is all about. But I'm hoping that you can kind of join us. You know the name really, really well. His name is James Bond. Very, very popular, famous name. He is attorney at law, and he's also a former member of parliament, obviously in Ghana. I know it will get a little bit, not tricky, but it will get very interesting because he switched from one party to the next and so forth. But he's doing really, really great work for the youths in Ghana, which is a beautiful thing. And we're going to focus on that, his strengths and the things that he's doing. We're not going to focus on his past and anything majorly political and all of that, right? So it's going to be it's going to be a really good chat a week from today with James Bond. You don't want to miss it. So, my dear fellow listeners and viewers, as we are officially approaching the end of tonight's program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to the Dr. Narine Dat Show. On behalf of myself and our very special guest here tonight, Sohan, both of us would like to join together and wish you a great today and even better tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for having me.